Hello, we're back. The jump season well underway. Some great racing again this weekend at Cheltenham as well. And I've had my first 10 Ante-Post bets of the season. So I thought, let's make a video, let's talk through each one of those selections because there might be some value to you guys out there as well. Now I did do a video back in July time where I talked about some horses whose prices I thought were value for the 2024 Cheltenham Festival. In fact, it's gone alright. About 4 of those I think have halved in price now. Tiupu, Allaho, You Wear It Well, Johnny Who, all much shorter than they were when I did that video back in July. But the truth is I didn't actually have any bets on any of those. I have had 3 bets however already before today that I did back in March. I'll flash those up on the screen now. But I had Allaho at 8-1, who has obviously since run. Maybe looks back to his best, who knows, we'll see as the season goes on, but I'm happy with that bet because the price is now shortened to 4-1, 3-1 in places. Had Johnny Who at 50-1 for the Ballymore, a horse that I just could not get away from all last season. He came out, looked very good in his first flat start, has looked very good again in his first start over hurdles, now priced around the 20-1 mark. I'm happy for that bet just to sit there at 50-1. And then Vauban at 20-1, interesting bet. Probably will go for the champion hurdle. Has obviously been out on the flat in Australia since, probably around the same price now. But like I say, those bets were back in March, just long range ones that I fancied and don't look too bad. But this weekend, like I say, I've had my first 10 Ante-Post bets for the season. And what I'm going to do in this video is just talk through each one of those, why I like the horse, why I think their prices will shorten throughout the season, and why I fancy them for each respective race at the 2024 Cheltenham Festival. So without further ado, let's get into it. So for my first bet, I've had £20 on Bioluminescent at 25-1 for the Mares Novice Hurdle. Now the Mares Novice Hurdle market looks interesting. Some really good horses at the top of the market like Brighter Days Ahead, currently around the 5-1, 6-1 mark. You've got Aurora Vega up there in the betting. You've got Dysart Enos up there in the betting. But looking further down the betting, I really like Bioluminescence at 25-1. She won her point-to-point by about 20 lengths. Then we saw her on her rules debut in a flat race back in March of this year, up against a horse called Junta Marvel. Now, Junta Marvel actually won this race, but Bioluminescence I thought travelled well and just couldn't go with Junta Marvel at the end. Both of them pulling way clear of the rest of the field. Now, Junta Marvel then come out at the Punchestown Festival and won the Mares Flat Race, the Grade 3 event there. So I think just bumped into a good one there. Then had a bit of a layoff and came out again this weekend, so November. We saw her come second to a horse called Look to the West. Again, pulling way clear of the other 17 runners in the field. They finished about 8 lengths clear of the rest of the field. And I thought it was a decent run. It was a good run. Bioluminescence travelled well, just couldn't quite get the better of Look to the West at the end, who again could be a very good operator. Now the horse is owned by JP McManus, trained by Gavin Cromwell. I really liked those 2 runs. I think with a stiffer test at Cheltenham, slightly extra distance as well in the Mares Novice Hurdle, albeit only a furlong and a bit extra. I think that Bioluminescence at 25-1 is definitely a horse to keep on side, and it's my first bet for the 2024 Cheltenham Festival. So my second selection is Grange Clare West at 12-1 for the Turner's Novice Chase, and I've had £30 on the horse. Now we saw Grange Clare West come out last season on hurdles debut and win impressively against a field of about 22 rivals, smashed the field, looked like he was going to be set for a massive season. Then the subsequent 2 runs after that, disappointed, albeit in grade 1s, but didn't look like the same horse that he looked in his initial hurdles race. This season, we've seen him come out over fences and impress massively again. Beat Corbett's Cross the favourite, looked good over fences, wasn't really asked many questions in that race, and I was really taken with that performance. I thought that looked really good over 2 miles 4, and that's why I think this horse will be targeted towards the Turner's Novice Chase. Again, 2 mile 4 race at the Cheltenham Festival. I think the market looks weak, maybe you could say. There's no real standouts in the market. The current Ante-Post favourite is Facile Vega, who looks likely to go to the Arkle to challenge Marine Nationale. Then you've got In the Pocket, who again could go here, could go to the Arkle, and then it's 10-1 and bigger the rest. I think in what looks like potentially a, weak race, a race that's going to cut up massively between now and the festival, I can see Grange Clare West coming out again, putting in another good performance and shortening quite quickly to single figure price. And that's why I'm happy at 12-1 to get Grange Clare West into my book as my second Ante-Post selection, £30 at 12-1. I like it. So a horse who I mentioned in that previous section, and my third Ante-Post bet that I've had, is £20 on In the Pocket at 20-1 for the Arkle Novices Chase. Now again, looking back to last season, In the Pocket had a decent season. We saw him come 4th in the Supreme behind Marine Nationale and Facile Vega. Then went on to the Aintree Festival and actually won the Grade 1 2-mile novices race there. I thought that was really good, beating some good horses in that race as well, like Lucia, Founder 50, Alto Belly, for example. Natural progression this season to fences, and we saw In the Pocket's chase debut this weekend against Facile Vega. I was impressed. I thought, well, as impressed as you can be for a horse that doesn't come off the bridle and isn't really asked too many questions, but finished well behind Facile Vega. I actually put this bet on at 20-1 before that race. And I've seen that the price has now shortened to 10-1, which I'm surprised about because I feel like we didn't really learn much from that race. But I'm happy with this bet. I'm happy to have a horse that is going to take on the likes of Facile Vega and Marine Nationale, who look to, face off at the head of that market. I'm happy to have a horse who has close form behind the two of them. And, if takes to fences over this season, could well challenge them come March. So third bet, £20, In the Pocket, 20-1 for the Arkle. Now for my next bet, I've gone a bit rogue and I've had £25 on a juvenile who hasn't even run in the UK yet. It's a bit of a mad one. £25 on Sir Gino at 16-1 for the Triumph Hurdle. Now let me explain the logic behind this bet. There's many juveniles who could come out and be anything. Obviously it's the market we probably know the least about. We saw Burdett Road come out this weekend, win nicely at Cheltenham, and has now gone into 6-1 favouritism for the race, which I think is crazy. I mean, could be a great horse, but 6-1 favourite for a UK winner when we didn't even have a UK horse in the top 10 last year is madness. But anyway, I wanted to find a horse in the market that I could just have a stab at and then enjoy watching their season. And I've landed on Sir Gino as a horse who's gone to the Nicky Henderson stable. Nicky Henderson obviously having 7 winners of this race in the past. A French recruit who ran once in France. We saw Salvador Mundi in that race, who's short price, about 12-1 in this current market, finished about 2 lengths behind Sir Gino. The third horse in that race, who finished about 13 lengths behind Sir Gino, has actually come out and won since. So looks like decent form from that one race. At 16-1, similar price to Lossiemouth was at this point last season. I'm happy to have a stab on the horse. I trust Nicky Henderson. I love Nicky Henderson. And look, let's just see how Sir Gino and all the other juveniles go. But the horse that I landed on, the horse that I had the bet on, Sir Gino at 16-1. Now my fifth bet is going to come as no surprise if you follow me on Twitter. I put out a little video snippet about this horse a week or so ago. Another 16-1 shot, another £25, but we've gone £25 on Irish Point at 16-1 for the Stayers Hurdle. Now again, if you've seen that video, I'm going to cover some of the same ground here. But I thought Irish Point was really impressive when we saw him come out and beat Magical Zoe about 2 weeks ago now. Giving away a load of weight, a really nice run, and then what we saw is Gordon Elliott come out after that race and suggest that he may well move up to 3 miles this season. Now moving up to 3 miles obviously suggests the Stayers Hurdle at Cheltenham. He missed Cheltenham last year. There's obviously the chance that he could miss Cheltenham this year, but I feel like this 3 mile staying division is weak. There's no real horses setting it alive. We've got Thalim at the head of the market. You've then got Tiupu, both of those around the 5 to 6-1 mark. I just think the market is currently wide and the race is currently wide open for another horse to come in and spoil the party. Now look, Ante-Post is the same connections, the same owners as Irish Point, and therefore they may choose one or the other. They may obviously choose to put both in the race and have two darts at it. But I really like Gordon Elliott's comments about the fact that Irish Point may well move up to 3 miles. I really like the horse. I really like the horse last season. I really like the horse this season. And I think at 16 to 1, that's a fair price. So it's another stab. It's another horse that, you know, should Gordon Elliott come out and suggest that this will be his target, we're going to see this price shorten massively, probably down to single figures. But whilst that all remains up in the air, whilst we don't know, you know, what the target will be, distance-wise, festival-wise, etc., it is a stab. But I like it. I'm rolling with it. So £25 at 16 to 1 on Irish Point to win the Stayers Hurdle. For my sixth bet, for £30 on Down Memory Lane at 12 to 1 for the Ballymore Novices Hurdle. Now another JP McManus owned horse, yet this time in the Gordon Elliott colours, which we don't often see for the JP McManus owned horses. More often than not, Willie Mullins or Nicky Henderson, for example. But a horse who, after his point-to-point debut, was very much talked about as being a great prospect. Then we saw his flat debut. Again, those same kind of comments were coming out after a really impressive performance. And then again recently, we saw his hurdles debut, where he could not have won it any more impressively. Absolutely cruised up on the bridle and comfortably cruised to victory at the end. And it's when I see a performance like that taking, that I'm an absolute sucker for a novice, and, you know, Constitution Hill-esque kind of cruising to victory. I had to have a bet on the horse. And look, I think the Ballymore market is wide open. There's lots of horses in this market who could be special. You know, I like Johnny Who as well in this market, and there's plenty of other horses who could well go for this race. Horses who we may not have even seen yet this season. But from what Down Memory Lane has done so far, I fancied him. I fancied him at 12 to 1. I would have loved to have got him at a bigger price. You know, he was about 20 to 1, 16 to 1 before that run. It would have been nice to have him at those prices, but I'm happy to be on now. I think, again, a few more impressive runs like that this season on the bridle, and that price is only going to tumble further. So therefore, the sixth bet in the book is Down Memory Lane, 12 to 1 for the Ballymore. My seventh bet, and a horse that I was so taken with last season, I was always going to follow this season and have a bet this season for wherever he landed at the Cheltenham Festival. But it's Factifile, 16 to 1 for the Brown Advisory Novices Chase, another £20 on him. Now, this is an interesting one because it's a horse that's already lost a little bit of value after this weekend's run, about 20 to 1 in most markets now, whereas obviously I had him at 16 to 1 just before that race. But I like this horse. I was really impressed last season with the horse, who in the end finished second in the champion bumper behind A Dream to Share. Now, this horse has always been crying out for further distance and also a hurdle or a fence, as it looks like he's going to be going over this season. So, first question, I guess, is why do we think the Brown Advisory Novices Chase is going to be the race for Factifile? Now, that all comes from Willie Mullins' comments. Willie Mullins said that Factifile is likely to be at the top end of the novice staying chasing division this season. Now, by staying chasing, you know, I presume that to mean, you know, 3 miles rather than the slightly shorter turner's distance. And that's why I expect to see Factifile in the Brown Advisory over 3 miles rather than the slightly shorter novice chase race. Yes, it was disappointing this weekend to see Factifile come second to American Mike. Don't get me wrong, American Mike looked really good in that run. And I think about short as 14 to 1 in this market now. But I think maybe that was a fitness run for Factifile. It was his first run over the fences, so let's allow that for now. Like I say, I genuinely believe this will be the target rather than the turners. A horse I really like, a horse I think is just going to get better and better the more times he goes over fences. And look, at 16 to 1, I'm really happy to have one of my favourite horses in the book for the 2024 Cheltenham Festival. Now, my 8th bet, and we've gone for a mad one. So far, up to this point, we've had 12 to 1s to kind of 25 to 1s in the book. Logical bets, sensible bets, but I've rolled the dice on this one, and we've gone for a tenner on Sir Gerhard at 50 to 1 to win the Ryanair Chase. Now, a lot of people will disagree with me on this one. I guess that's why the price is 50 to 1. We all know Sir Gerhard, to start with, is a great horse. Obviously winning the Champion Bumper at the Cheltenham Festival, winning the Ballymore at the Cheltenham Festival, and then since then has moved to fences. Now in his last run up against Dino Blue, I thought he travelled really well. I think he was, looking to come and challenge Dino Blue and potentially win the race, we'll never know, when falling 2 out. And since that fall, you look on social media, everyone's suggesting that he will clearly now revert back to hurdles and go for a hurdles race at the festival. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. I was impressed with how he ran in that race. I've been impressed with his, runs over fences before that point. And I genuinely can see owners, trainers, etc. keeping this horse over fences. How cool will it be to win a race at the festival, the flat race, a hurdles race, and a race over fences? Obviously in the same market I'm suggesting here is Allaho, who owners also have in this race. But I think, a middle distance horse over fences, the Ryanair is the most suitable race, I would presume, for Sir Gerhard if he does stay over fences. And I just think, I just think this is a value bet, a bet that has much better than a 50-1 chance, and that's why I like it. So, rolling the dice on this one, let's give it a go. Let's see where Sir Gerhard lands at the end of this season. But 50-1, I'm having a bit of that. Now bet 9, and I've had £20 on Zenta at 20-1 for the mare's Chase. Now this is a horse where we don't really know the target. Will Zenta stay over hurdles or will Zenta go over fences? And I guess that's baked into the kind of 20-1 price, the uncertainty on the discipline of Zenta this season. But I love Zenta. I really liked Zenta last season. Won her hurdles debut in France, then came over to Fairy House and won her debut over this side of the sea. Then went to Cheltenham, a relatively unknown horse because we'd only seen her in a few starts, and finished 2.5 lengths behind Lossiemouth, who obviously everyone was very impressed with and is highly touted for the mare's hurdle this season. Now, because of that, I think Zenta has a real chance whatever race she goes to for. But Willie Mullins, in his pre-season kind of stable tour as such, suggested that Zenta may well go chasing. And if Zenta does go chasing, I think the mare's Chase is the most likely race for her. Could well be, a race like the Arkle, for example, but I think the mare's Chase is a race where she has the best chance of winning. Because it's a race where there's not too much in the market at the moment. You've got the likes of Dino Blue and Allegory Devassi, who both, good on their day, but have also disappointed as well at times over their careers. I think if we heard that Zenta is definitely going to target the mare's Chase, this price would absolutely tumble to maybe even single figures. But a horse I really like, I've just explained why that closeness of form to Lossiemouth makes her a real great horse and a great option wherever she goes. So, I'm kind of gambling, I'm kind of rolling the dice. I did actually put her forward for the mare's hurdle earlier on my Twitter. Maybe that was a stupid thing to do now because it does look like she may well go chasing. But I really wanted to get a bet in the book at a big price for this horse, and that's why at 20-1, I've had 20 quid on it. My 10th and final Ante-Post bet, and I've fallen into the hype trap. The horse that everyone's talking about, I've had £30 on Mirazur West at 12-1 for the Supreme Novices Hurdle. Now this horse is a full brother to Fernie Hollow, who we obviously saw win the Champion Bumper a few years ago. He's had 2 runs so far, the first a point-to-point in which he fell, and then came out in a flat race where he was mightily impressive. One of those novice performances that I spoke about earlier where he cruised to victory. The third Marne's Way actually came out and won impressively last weekend as well. And a horse who, everyone's talking about. Last year I missed the boat with Lossiemouth. Everyone was talking about Lossiemouth from 16-1, shortened all the way through the season and went on to win the Triumph. This year for the Supreme, everyone seems to be talking about Mirazur West. And for that reason alone, because it's a novice race, because anything can happen, because it's a JP McManus owned, Willie Mullins trained horse, I've gone for it. I've fallen for the hype. So the final bet is a hype bet, but 12-1, £30 on Mirazur West for the Supreme Novices Hurdle. So that concludes this video. I'm going to pop up on screen now the 10 bets so you can view all 10 in one view. These are, like I say, my first 10 Ante-Post bets for this season as we approach the 2024 Cheltenham Festival. If you've enjoyed this video, please do subscribe to my channel. Please stick a comment on, give me your thoughts on what you think about my 10 selections. Let me know any that I've missed or any horses that you're backing for the festival. But I'll be back very soon with some more thoughts on the 2024 Cheltenham Festival. Until then, goodbye.